Welcome back, everybody. It is the Awesemo.com NHL DFS strategy show. We've got a nice little five-gamer on this Friday afternoon. I'm Jake Hari, joined by the Iron Man, the man who is, this is his, fifth straight show? Slim Cliffy, Michael Clifford. What's up, man? How are you handling all these shows?
You know what? I kind of dig it because it gives me that outlet to provide my fantasy opinions that I might not have the outlet for otherwise, and they just be jumbling around and rattling around in my brain, and that's not any use to anybody. We got to get these hot takes out there. We got to get the Detroit ones. We got to get the Cody Cece's. We have to get all of those out of my head.
It helped out some people last night. So it was a good night for a lot of the subscribers. I'm seeing someone just join. I can't see under the pinned comment. So let me see if I can click on this. Dan Williams just joined Team Awesemo. If you guys want to join Dan and get some access to some cool badges, you can just click the join icon and sign up for a YouTube premium membership with us. If you don't want to, that's fine. You just won't look as cool when you chat in the YouTube chat. So that's fine. Up to you guys if you don't want to. But yeah, it was a really good night. So you mentioned Detroit won. I wouldn't say it was like a phenomenal night for us, but I think good for both of us, and then really good for a bunch of subscribers, which was awesome to see.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like Josh and I, and you and Josh have talked about that before. Like we like to have good nights ourselves. Don't get us wrong. We like making money here, but it's all about our subscribers doing well here. That's our job. Sitting here talking to you guys is to help you guys win. So seeing Arbo take down one, we had our very own Kelly Canuck and Dustin JockMKT split the 5K top prize in the 20 max. Just a lot of good stuff in the chat last night. So let's hope we can do that again here tonight.
Yeah, I would be down for another good night. I didn't have my Detroit ones line up with my Colorado ones, so I was left out of the big money. But I had a pretty good cash in the what was that? The 222 last night on DK. So I had a few lineups in there, and one had a nice cash. Had a chance for a while in the $10 on DK as well, and then I think I needed like some Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins points. And McDavid selfishly took all the goals for himself, didn't spread it out amongst the forwards. So he had a nice game, but the rest of the line, the rest of Edmonton's forwards didn't do too hot. Dan says he took down the mini-max last night, felt pretty good. Yeah, that's always a good feeling. What is the amount of entries that's in the mini-max right now? That is like my favorite tournament of all time, the mini-max for NHL.
I'm pretty sure it's a 150, isn't it?
No, I mean the amount of entries, because like that's pretty impressive.
I think
it's like 10, 12,000, right?
Yeah.
So that's really difficult to take down. Yeah, I misspoke. Dan saying 150 with the nice little Awesemo badge right there next to his name. That looks pretty cool there in Slack or in YouTube chat. If you want to join Slack, you can use we don't have a promo code going on right now, but if you do want to join Slack and you're getting in on all this March Madness fun, we've got a college basketball package. If you guys would like to sign up for that, that's going to give you projections for everything every game. So Matt is working really hard to provide those. We've got live before locks. We had one today, 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll run it back tomorrow. We'll run it back Sunday. We'll run it back Monday, and hopefully more after that. So there's free stuff. There's premium stuff. $29.99 for the college basketball package. That gets you through the entire March Madness tournament. You also get access to premium Slacks. If you're looking to play college, you can come over to the NHL Slack as well and kind of get in there for free. All right. Anything else on last night? I don't know. I mean, I thought it was a pretty good slate and it worked out okay. So it's nice when that works out like that.
Yeah, I kind of wish Edmonton did a little bit better, but there was a lot of stuff that we picked on that actually kind of hit. Like even Arizona, right? Schmaltz, Keller, Garland. We mentioned that at the end of the show last night because Anaheim's lines just hadn't been doing anything lately. And unfortunately, I think they scored 2 goals in the first 5 minutes of the game and then did nothing the rest of the way. Or it was like maybe 2 in the first 10 minutes or something like that. But as long as it's just nice seeing Schmaltz, Keller, and Garland back together, right? Mm-hmm. Because as long as those guys are broken up, I don't really have a lot of interest in Arizona at all. But as long as those guys are together, at least it's a conversation. Then you can start talking about matchups and pricing and all that. When they're broken up, like there's just no interest on the Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah, looking back on it, I think that was a mistake that I made. We didn't know what the Arizona lines were going to be, but I think I probably should have crunched like it was going to be Schmaltz and Keller and Garland back together. That was a potential opportunity. I don't think it would have taken down anything with those guys. I think they only got those 2 quick goals right at the beginning, but always interested in that line when it's a thing. And it ended up being a thing last night, but it was just the last game, so you couldn't really swap to it. Even if you had Arizona stacks, they're a lot cheaper than that trio. We got a super chat right off the bat from Dustin. He says, thank you guys. Slack chat made me a ton of money last night. Got off of Dallas and more on to Colorado. Said he split the forecheck with Kelly Canuck. That's Nolan Kelly, if any of you guys know him. If you remember him from last year, he is our boss. So he's doing some stuff behind the scenes. He's not doing NHL shows, but he's always DMing me about NHL. He binked with Dustin, so that is really awesome to see. You don't like to split, but when it's with the Awesemo community, I guess could be a lot worse. He had Avs 1 and Boston 2. I think they had the exact same lineup, 10-game slate. That doesn't happen too often, but I thought that was a pretty good pairing. Boston 2 pretty low owned, Colorado 1 very low owned, just based on how good they are. And even against a tough Minnesota team, I don't know if you saw the one more thing out last night. There was some beat writer controversy. Russo was tweeting that Colorado scorekeepers were like counting shots that shouldn't be shots and stuff like that. And like, you know, maybe he was right about the one that he clipped, but they had 55 others that were on goal that should have counted.
Yeah, I mean, I saw his point, and for anybody that didn't see it, it was a shot that if the goalie had let it go, it wouldn't have hit the net, but the goalie reached out and gloved it, and they counted it as a shot on goal. That gets counted as a shot in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Like the shot on goal guy isn't sitting there with 7 camera angles and, you know, doing geometry and doing his trigonometry to figure out exactly where the puck would have gone if it had continued on its straight path. It's just, if it looks close to the net and the goalie saves it, they're going to count it as a shot. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah, not quite the Russo meltdown that we've seen from time to time, but I did see some of the Colorado beats were poking some fun at him as the game was going on. I mean, they had 30 shots like midway through the second or even before that. So like, I mean, they were just peppering Talbot right off the bat. I swear they had like 8 shots on one power play right in the beginning of the game, and they just never stopped. So just a drubbing there by the Avs. Minnesota didn't really have a chance. One pretty cheap goal from Victor Rask, and that was it. But yeah, that's the Colorado team that is fully healthy. We've got another team that is getting close to full health that hasn't been super dangerous this year. Still missing one of their big defensemen that we'll talk about later, but the Blues getting back an important piece after they just got back Tarasenko a few games ago. So let's get into the early games. We've got 1, 2, 3. That's that lock right at lock 7 Eastern. So we'll start with the Rangers and the Caps. We've got a 2.8 implied total for the Rangers, 3.2 for the Caps. Georgiev and Vanacek are your goalies. Zibanejad repeat performance here after the natural hat trick. I wanted to say natural stat trick just because I love that site, but natural hat trick. And I did see that on those 3 goals, he had a 5-on-5, a shorthanded, and a power play goal, which isn't. I mean, it doesn't happen very often at all. So pretty cool story there for a guy that's been struggling. They're getting some ownership. Rangers 1, and then Caps 1, obviously going to get some attention tonight as well. One of the highest owned stacks on the night. Where are you going with this one, Cliffy?
Yeah, speaking of scoring, I just wanted to bring up the Mario Lemieux stat. Still the only player in NHL history to score even strength, power play, shorthanded, penalty shot, and empty net all in the same game.
Wow.
Yeah,
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I think that's something that we may never see again in our lifetimes. Maybe not. The one thing I want to mention is Washington changed. Like, we're expecting normal Washington lines, and by normal Washington lines, I mean Backstrom, Oshie, and Ovechkin with Kuznetsov, Sprong, and Vrana on the second line. That's kind of what they had been running lately. That's what they ran in practice yesterday. But at the end of their game, the third period last game, they ran Kuznetsov with Ovechkin and pushed Backstrom down to the second line. Like, I'm not acting on that. I just want people to be aware that, we talk a lot about how Washington has been splitting their power plays. I mean, if they're going to start moving their centers around the lineup a little bit, especially where they're going 11-7 again tonight, right? I think, like, we've been talking a lot about broken stacks with Washington, doing something like Kuznetsov, Vrana, Ovechkin, Karlsson, or Backstrom, Ovechkin, Vrana, Karlsson, or something like that. I think those stacks are in play again here tonight, especially where they're going 11-7. They have been doing a lot of is just rotating the centers through. So it just means more ice time for guys like Kuznetsov and guys like Nick Dowd. Like, even Nick Dowd, I think, makes a decent one-off here tonight. I normally don't like one-offing super cheap centers. But his last 4 games, 17 minutes, 20 minutes, and 17 minutes. Like, that's a lot of ice time for a super cheap forward or a super cheap center on a short slate. So, like, Nick Dowd kind of makes like a one-off sense to me, but I'm going heavy on the Washington top line here tonight. Backstrom, Ovechkin, and Oshie. Like, I just don't have too many concerns about the top line matchup against the Rangers. I know, like, Buchnevich definitely makes that line better. Don't get me wrong, but they just have, like, Zibanejad still hasn't been nearly as, like, 6-point outburst aside. That was wonderful. When I look just at the play driving numbers, he still hasn't been at the level he's been last year, and that's a concern. So I'm going right back. I'm going to Washington 1, but I am going to make sure that Washington's just made my favorite spot on the slate here tonight, and I'll be honest about that. Like, I have more Washington ownership than I do anywhere else. So while I'm heavy on Washington 1, Backstrom, Oshie, Ovechkin, I am doing some of those stacks like I talked about, like Kuznetsov, Vrana, Ovechkin, Backstrom, Kuznetsov, Vrana, Ovechkin, 5 Manning, 6 Manning, Josh stacking Washington. I'm really going heavy in that direction for the Caps. On the Rangers side, I'm avoiding the top line. I think, like, I'm worried about ownership. I'm worried about people just driving over to Zibanejad because he had that one good game. Like, Washington's been, like, they've been one of the best defensive teams in hockey for a few weeks now. Like, we talked about it earlier this week on an earlier show. But basically, since they got their guys back about a month ago, they've been a top 5 defensive team in hockey. Like, this isn't a good matchup for the Rangers. And the steam on them is just out of control. Like, their implied goal total I saw open at 2.6 or something like that, and was up to 3.1 almost, like, overnight. Like, that is a huge jump. So, like, I am going to use a bit of the Rangers second line because I think I want to get into, like, the depth defensive matchups a little bit more than going up against Karlsson and Dillon. Like, I'd rather go into, like, Schultz and Orlov or something like that, like the depth of the Caps. So I am going to have a little bit of, like, Strome, Panarin, 2-mans or something like that. Even something like Strome, I think Strome, Blackwell, and Keandre Miller would make a nice, like, small 3-man for expensive spots later. But I really do think this is all about Washington 1. Like, one thing I want to note about Washington 1, especially, is Ovechkin. Ovechkin's shot rate had declined earlier in the year. Like, it was down from prior seasons, but it started to climb over the last 3 weeks. And he's been at about his career level, like, basically this last month or so. So while his shot rate is still, like, somewhat of a concern, it's not as much of a concern for me as earlier. So back in on Washington 1, mixing in power play stacks, Kuznetsov and with Sprong and all those guys. I'm just basically all about the Washington top 6 plus John Carlson tonight.
Oh, that is not what I wanted to hear. I wanted you to tell me a reason why to get off of Washington 1. So I'm going to attempt to do it myself. And for MME, I'm just going to have, it's a 5-game slate. Like, I'm not going to miss out on the chalk expensive stack. I'm going to have some bullets in here to try to save me, or it's half the field or whatever, a third of the field. I'm going to have some Washington 1, and probably a lot of that's going to be with Karlsson or in a 5-man with, like, Verana, or you could go Kuznetsov, Verana, Ovechkin, Oshie, Karlsson. Like there's a ton of different ways to go with this. So it's not like I'm just outright fading the Caps, but they just stink at 5-on-5. The Backstrom line, Backstrom, Ovi, and Oshie. And I kind of don't believe it, but it's enough of a sample this season where I'm just generally pretty concerned about them. The Rangers have a good penalty kill as well. The total isn't massive. Like I feel like in this spot last season, this would be like a 3.6, 3.7 implied total for the Caps, and 3.2 is pretty modest. So I wouldn't say like I'm a Rangers believer here either, because for the same reasoning, like Rangers 1 hasn't been very impressive at 5-on-5 either. So I think this is just going to be a game where I'll have pieces of. I like the Washington 2 call. I like the Rangers 2 call as well, specifically Panarin and Ryan Strome. But I'm going to come in underweight on Caps 1, kind of going against the projections. You're getting a really cheap Oshie. You're getting a reasonably priced Backstrom. And then like everybody loves playing Ovi. I think you can play him as a one-off. Clayton asked the question yesterday about playing expensive or chalky one-offs. I think Ovi's fine as a one-off here. He's probably going to get his 5-shot bonus, and he's not going to kill you, no matter how bad they are at 5-on-5. But I'm talking myself a little bit off of Washington 1. Not in love with Rangers 1 on the other side. I'm sticking to the second lines for the most part here. I think if I'm overweight on anything in this game, it'll be Washington 2, and it'll be Rangers 2. Carlson, 6,600. Would that be a guy you would one-off tonight? I think for me, like on a bigger slate, I think I'd be fine one-offing him. But on a slate where he's just going to be paired with Caps 1 so often, you kind of have to thread the needle like so perfectly for him to be in a winning lineup without Washington 1 being on that winning lineup as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the reason why I don't frequently one-off, because like for the power play 1 defenseman to get there in a game where the power play doesn't, like you said, a lot of things really have to go right. Like he's not on the slate, but a Darnell Nurse would make a lot more sense as a one-off on a slate than somebody like John Carlson would. It does happen. Like I even think there was one slate earlier this year where they scored 3 goals and he got in on all 3 goals, but nobody else had more than a point. Like those slates do happen. Don't get me wrong. But if you go and look, Ovet, you know, when this team scores 5 or 6 goals, it's fairly frequently that John Carlson is a big part of it, and you know their top stars are frequently a big part of it. Like they play every minute together, right? Like Backstrom, assuming Backstrom and Ovechkin stay together 5-on-5, they're going to play every minute together 5-on-5, every minute together on the power play other than PP2 minutes, and every minute together with the empty net. So like, you know, it's really hard for those guys to not have a big night, and then John Carlson have a big night when they're all skating together all the time.
Going back to Trouba at all, 4,700 there, more one-off guy for me.
Yeah, that's about where I am. Like in my Rangers 2 stacks, I'm trying to use Adam Fox where I can, and then where I'm one-offing, it's just Trouba.
I like it. All right, I'm hoping this one stays pretty quiet. Got to mention before we move on to the next game that we are sponsored by JockMKT. You guys have heard me talk about them for a couple weeks now, but they've turned fantasy sports into a stock exchange. They allow you to buy and sell shares of players in real time with real money, guaranteed payouts. You guys know the deal. They've got NBA, NHL, PGA, and you can make real money every hour, every second of every game or match. You can use the pregame IPO to pick up shares of your favorite players. Then you can buy, sell, or hold during the game based on your own analysis. So you got to do some work during the game. You can download the app to get started and then use our exclusive Awesemo promo code to get some free money. Promo code is Awesemo20 for a $20 deposit bonus. And again, that's exclusive to the Awesemo community only. So make sure you take advantage today. If you're looking for a new game to play, JockMKT has got you covered. If you like stocks, it might be a pretty easy transition. Stocks, DFS, they kind of combine everything. All right, let's go to the Flames and the Maple Leafs. 2.8 implied total for the Flames, 3.6 for the Maple Leafs. Jacob Markstrom and Freddie Anderson are your goalies. Couple of things to talk about, just general notes. Galchenyuk with Tavares and Nylander, min salary, Alex Galchenyuk. Thornton, very cheap, power play 1. He's skating, at least we think, with Matthews and Marner, although he's been listed there to start games, and then it's been Zach Hyman for like the overwhelming majority of the game. So I don't know. I hope Hyman's up there, but what's your read on this with the Leafs lines? You think we see Hyman up there a lot? Like, could you potentially play him for 5,800 with Matthews and Marner and feel good about it?
I haven't felt good about anything yet this season. So no, I won't feel good about it, but I wouldn't have a problem doing it because you're right. They're really managing Thornton's minutes. Look at his last 5 games, 14, 13, 15, 13, 12. Like he hasn't cracked 16 minutes in his last 5. So like they're obviously trying to manage his minutes, and you do that by playing other forwards in his place. And Zach Hyman's one of them. The problem with that is Hyman doesn't play on their PP unit, right? Like if you could get that added correlation, I would really like, that would be something I'd be a lot more interested in. But Hyman's on PP2 and Matthews and Marner are on PP1. So like it's a short enough slate where it can work out. And I wouldn't say somebody's stupid if they did it. It's just something I wouldn't do because I think you want that power play correlation. You don't want to rely on Matthews, Marner, and Hyman scoring 2 goals in 5 minutes of ice time together. You know what I mean? Like that's just kind of the way I look at it. Alex Galchenyuk is what's really interesting me from this game. I want to take a little bit of time to talk about him actually because like I'm a big Montreal Canadiens fan. So obviously, I was pretty high on this guy when he was coming up. He had a 30-goal season. He had a 20-goal season with him. Like he looked like he was part of the future. And then things kind of fell apart for him. He bounced around the league, Arizona, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Ottawa. Now he's in Toronto. Like this is what is like his 5th team in 3 years. When that happens, that's usually an indication that there's something going on behind the scenes. So maybe there's something with his attitude or something with his work ethic or something like that. Good hockey players, like 30 goal scorers don't bounce around from team to team to team to team without there being a reason for it, right? So he's had a month in Toronto now. He's been with their skills coaches, like pretty much just practicing flat out with their skills coaches in Toronto. He had a brief stint in the AHL with 8 points in 6 games. So like it certainly seems like they're trying to give him every opportunity to succeed. And I think that's all you can really ask for as a player. And as a DFSer, I think that's all we can ask for too. Like Alex Galchenyuk coming in on the 4th line would be of absolutely no interest to us. Alex Galchenyuk coming in on the 2nd line is of great interest to us. The one thing that I think really plays in favor here is that like Galchenyuk's had a little bit of trouble finishing his last couple of years, but he was a good finisher earlier in his career. And that's kind of the one thing that Tavares and Nylander have been missing from that line is somebody that can really finish. So I think Galchenyuk might, assuming all the reports are right and he's actually like up to speed and, he's done well with the skills coaches, like assuming all that is right, like I can see him working well with Thornton and Nylander in somewhat of a sheltered role. Like you won't see them going out against the Tkachuk and Lindholm line tonight, for example, right? They aren't going to feed Galchenyuk to the Wolves in his first game back. So I think, with that Toronto 2nd line getting softer matchups, especially if they go up against that Gaudreau Monahan line, like I think that's just a really, really good matchup for Toronto too here tonight. And the final thing I want to say about that is that Galchenyuk, like he's that 2,500 guy, and we'll talk about the other one later, Jaden Schwartz for St. Louis. Like I think Galchenyuk is the pivot away from Jaden Schwartz. Like I think you're going to see a lot more ownership on St. Louis too than you will on Toronto too, because Tarasenko's back and he's still relatively cheap. Like that line, we're going to get to St. Louis later, but the St. Louis line is cheaper, and I think Galchenyuk just makes a really nice, not even just a pivot, like just put some Toronto 2 lineups in, because that's exactly what I'm doing. So I'm in on Toronto 2 here tonight. 1, because it's a good price with Galchenyuk there. 2, I am a believer in Galchenyuk. Whether he puts it together is on him, but I'm a believer in his talent. I'm a believer in this opportunity. And I think that's basically all you can ask for from one night of DFS. Just give me a talented guy with the opportunity to succeed, and I'm going to take my chances on him. So I'm going to be in on Toronto 2. The one thing I'm interested in is how Austin Matthews is going to respond, right? Because Toronto's had, I think, 5 days off now. He obviously had that wrist injury that had been bothering his shot rate, had come down a bit. I'm going to use Matthews as a one-off in 1 or 2 lineups tonight here, I think. But I don't think I'm going to get in up to the field on him. Like this is definitely a situation where I want to see how he responds before I slam in like 40% Matthews or something like that. Like if it's one game where he goes out and has a couple goals tonight, like I won't sweat it. It's not a big deal. If I don't have Austin Matthews tonight and he goes off for 25 DK points, it is what it is. There's 8 weeks left in the season. I just kind of want to see how he does here tonight. On the Calgary side, I'm out altogether. I think it's just a terrible matchup for the Lindholm Kachuk line going up against Matthews and Marner and Thornton. Like it's just an absolutely brutal matchup. The Matthews, Marner, and Thornton line, like just to kind of crystallize it, 1.47 expected goals against per 60 minutes this year. That's just sickeningly good defensively. So out on Kachuk and Lindholm. I'm out on Gaudreau and Monahan as well for the reasons I just told you about Tavares and Nylander. If anything, I would be in on Calgary 3. But again, I think Toronto 3 presents a tough matchup. Like I think those are two good third lines that would kind of just cancel each other out. So I wouldn't have any argument against either of the third lines as a filler line, but for me, I'm mostly focusing on Toronto 2 here tonight.
I'm all over the Toronto side as well. I'm having trouble figuring out things I like about Calgary here. You mentioned the backline line. That would be the line I think I'm over the field on. And it's not like Calgary is getting much ownership, but even at low ownership, like the Matthews line's been so good defensively. Toronto's just been good defensively, straight up. So yeah, I mean, are you reading the Galchenyuk comment about you being minus 3,000? Yeah. I was hoping you saw that one. Yeah, so Mr. Goodman says, Cliffy doing a monologue on Galchenyuk today was minus 3,000 to happen.
Yeah, so, it was a lock.
Wow. Yeah, put the college fund on that one, I guess. And I don't even know what your ROI is. Pretty low, but it's positive. So didn't get some action on that one, but next time I'll have the picks from Saul. Yeah, I mean, Toronto won. Like, I'm going to leave Thornton off a lot because I always do. And I wanted to get your thoughts on Zach Hyman potentially playing him with Matthews and Marner. If he was a little bit cheaper or he was on power play 1, I think I'd probably be more likely to do it. I think I would be more likely to do it in like a hand-built lineup because I think Toronto 3 is playable, certainly on a 5-game slate. And a lot of that is basically has just been where Hyman has gone. The line has been generating offense. So I wish he was on with Matthews and Marner, and he's going to play some with them, judging by what they've done the last few games. But yeah, I'm kind of at the same spot with Matthews too, in terms of the injury. Like he's playing 22 minutes a night these last few games. And yeah, the goals haven't been there the last couple of games, but he had a 25 and a 29 point DK performance. Like he scored multiple goals since he's had this wrist injury. So I can't believe an organization would be this risky, knowing that this could be a year where they contend for the cup very easily. So I'm just treating him like he's pretty much full strength. He's going to be popular, but I'm getting to about 15-20% of Toronto 1 tonight right now. And I think it's going to be even more once I take down my Washington 1 exposure a little bit. And then Toronto 2, I'd like to get over the field on them. I'm in double digits. I feel pretty good about that with Galchenyuk. I'm not going out of my way to leave him off for 2,500 here. So I'm with you there on this Toronto side. On the Flames blue line, Gio is a guy that I'll play some of. And then I think I'm out on Hanifin. I know he's cheap and he's playing power play 1, but he's just going to be like, he's going to be the anchor with any Calgary stack tonight. I think it's just going to be an automatic put in the $2,800 defenseman. And it's not like he's got great peripherals. He's fine, but I'll find a pivot elsewhere if he's going to have any ownership at all.
And I think he'll just be a popular one-off too, right?
Yeah, like yeah, people don't make rules.
Even just outside of Calgary stacks, yeah.
For sure. Yeah, he's easy to just pop in there for that price. Anything else on the blue line for the Leafs? Riley, Muzzin, Justin Holl?
I mean, Muzzin's always the guy I go to. Because like I said, I'm just trying to trust my numbers, and like Muzzin always just comes up because he can perform across the board. He can block shots, he can score goals, even though he's not on the power play. He just still keeps consistently putting up DK points. So I'm still going to be putting in Jake Muzzin, especially in my Toronto 2 lineups where I don't need the Morgan O'Reilly exposure. I call it Morgan O'Reilly. I'm still on St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day, baby.
Yeah. So especially my Toronto 2 lineups where I don't necessarily need to go all the way down to Justin Holl or something like that. I'm fine using Muzzin.
we'll get to an actual O'Reilly in a couple of games here. So I know you're excited to talk about the Blues. Actually, not really excited. You might be more excited about the other side of that game. We'll get there in a minute. We've got Vancouver and Montreal, 2.6 implied total for the Canucks, 3.4 for the Canadiens. Thatcher Demko and Jake Allen getting the start. Is this are they giving the starting gig to Allen here, or is this a back-to-back situation? I haven't.
No, Carey Price had started the last couple. I think they just want to give Jake Allen a little bit of run.
Fair enough. It's definitely a winnable game here. The 5-on-5 matchups. I mean, I don't know how Montreal doesn't run them over at 5-on-5, but we see weird things happen in NHL games all the time. So, Vancouver could dominate here. They've still got some quality players, some new lines that I'm seeing. So Danault back with Tatar and Gallagher. That's your first line. Kotkaniemi with Drouin and Josh Anderson as your second line, third line, whatever you want to call it. And then Suzuki with Toffoli still, and then Yoel Armia. So you've got easily 3 playable lines on the Montreal side. Horvat was with Besser and Hoglander last game. I haven't seen news about Vancouver. Did they skate this morning? Are these lines confirmed from what they did today?
I haven't seen anything yet, but I also have Miller, Horvat, or Miller, Virtanen, and Gaudette, and then
oh yeah.
Horvat, Besser, and Hoglander.
Okay, I'm seeing VC with Miller and Virtanen, but either way, could be like things are going to be shook up. I think for Vancouver. This is a 7 Eastern game, so at least we'll know somewhat how they're going to start, and then after that, it's kind of up to us. But Montreal, what are you doing with them here? 3.4 implied total.
So the first thing that jumped out to me was old Montreal 1 coming back together. That indicates to me that they're going to use that old Montreal 1 as the shutdown line, right? So I expect that Montreal 1 line tonight, Tatar, Gallagher, and Danault to go into the Horvat, Besser, and Hoglander line. And realistically, that's the only line Vancouver can put together that can really put up a fight at 5-on-5. Like once you get down beyond that, Montreal should be able to just have their way at 5-on-5 with Vancouver. So like it's really it's hard for me to have like a strong lean on any of the Montreal lines, right? Because 2 of the guys on the second line are on power play 1. 2 of the guys on the third line are on power play 1. These are relatively new lines. Like Nick Suzuki and Joel Armia really haven't played a ton together this year. Nick Suzuki, Joel Armia, and Tyler Toffoli haven't played a ton together. Kotkaniemi, Drouin, and like Kotkaniemi and Suzuki had typically been switched. So like these are somewhat new lines, but Kotkaniemi, Drouin, and Anderson is really what's catching my eye here. One, because they're going to go up against the third and fourth lines from Vancouver, and like there's just nothing there. We're talking Brandon Sutter, Jace Harlock. Like there's nothing. So like Kotkaniemi and Anderson, like Kotkaniemi is just going to roll over that line. He protects the puck so well in the zone, and we talk about shot assists all the time. Like a reminder that Kotkaniemi is great with shot assists. That's finding teammates for shots in the offensive zone. He's was one of the best in hockey through his first couple seasons. Playing with Josh Anderson is only going to reap the rewards from that. So I'm doing a lot of Montreal 3 plus Weber, Drouin, Anderson plus Weber, Montreal 3 plus Petrie. I'm just really in on Montreal 3 here tonight. But if you want to play Montreal 2, Suzuki, Armia, Toffoli, I have no problem with that either. My only thing is like I don't think Suzuki is playing as well right now as he was 6 weeks ago. I think his best hockey was in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, and Kotkaniemi I think has kind of taken him over on the depth chart a little bit. I think that's why you see Kotkaniemi moved up into where Suzuki's spot was with Drouin and Anderson, is because I think Kotkaniemi has kind of passed him on the depth chart, at least temporarily. So that's kind of why I'm in more on the Montreal side. I've got no interest in Vancouver here. I think my one interest with the Canucks would be some sort of power play stack, especially with Tyler Mott in the lineup now. Like Tyler Mott should be on the top power play unit. He's cheap down at 3,800. So you can do like a Horvat, Besser, Mott, Hughes line for, under 20K. You can get a 4-man Vancouver stack for under 20K. So I'm pretty much out on Vancouver, but if I were in, it would be to take advantage of Montreal and all their penalties, because these are two teams. These are the two most penalized teams in the NHL, right? Like Montreal's number 1 and Vancouver's number 2, so there should be a lot of power plays here tonight. So I wouldn't begrudge anybody for wanting to stack Vancouver. I'm just out on them. Like no Pettersson and no Pearson. I think like this is a team that can afford to lose any of their forwards. They just don't have the depth.
So we got Nick Dowd. I wasn't with you there, but Tyler Mott, I've got a soft spot in my heart for him. I think was that this season. I think I banked a showdown with. It was
he had a monster game earlier in the year.
Yeah, on a 1-gamer, and I ended up with a bunch. Anyways, I'm with you on the Mott, rightfully getting his power play 1 spot here. But if you wanted to go to Vancouver power play, that's fine. I think that's going to be the way that they generate 3-4 goals here if they do, just because Montreal cannot stay out of the penalty box. Now, Vancouver can't either, so I much prefer Montreal, but ownership being a big part of how I make lineups, trying to avoid the hefty ownership. I will get to some like Miller, Virtanen, Horvat stacks with Quinn Hughes type of thing. Like I'll have some kind of funky stacks for Vancouver, trying to get 2 to 3 forwards on the top power play with Hughes. So that's how I like to attack Vancouver in MME spots. For Montreal, you mentioned like it's hard to get a read on them from game to game when they've got their lines spread out. It feels like they're all kind of the same or all priced appropriately, all owned at a spot where I'm comfortable playing them. I was getting to close to the field, actually right around the field on Montreal 1. So I'll have a bunch of them. I think Deneau is going to be left off a bunch, and you'll see a lot of Tatar Gallagher. And I've got no problem with that. Those are going to be the guys that score the goals most likely if Montreal 1 has a big game. And then I think I'm going to have a lot of like 5 and 6 man Montreal stacks as well. So I'm going to be running some 3-2s tonight. And usually, you get 3 from one team, your full stack, and then your 2-man from another team. But I think you can reasonably go 3-man Montreal 1 with 2-man Suzuki, Toffoli, and then Weber or Petrie, and do basically a Josh stack like that. So I think I'll end up on those, not even trying to end up on them, because I think it's an awesome spot for Montreal. So I'm in on all 3 lines. For my exposures right now, I think I'm going to have the most of the Deneau line, then the second most of Suzuki, and then the third most of your line. So you're a big Kotkaniemi guy.
Yeah, I am. We seem to be on the opposite side of a few games here today.
Yeah, we were in sync. What was that? Yeah, yesterday. I feel like we're on all the same stuff. So we're a little bit different, but I don't know. Maybe I'll come around to your side a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, I'm at like 7-8% of Montreal, the Kotkaniemi line. So it's not like I'm leaving them out, but I can't be like, slam 35% of Montreal 1 or Montreal 3. Like I think any of these lines can go off, which makes Montreal a little bit difficult to navigate.
The thing for me is like, I think people view Suzuki as the superior center, like whether he is or not, like I'm not going to argue with that. But like fantasy wise, they have the identical shot rate, and Suzuki has 2 more assists on the season. Like they've been very similar players. So like I like going after Kotkaniemi because I view him as good, if not better, fantasy wise right now than Suzuki, and he's going to come in a lower ownership.
Fair enough. I can't really dispute anything. I just know I want Montreal skaters in a lot of my lineups tonight.
Yeah.
Anything else on the blue line? Edler, Schmidt, Hamonic. Those are pretty much all the same to me. They're all priced close enough to each other. I think right now I have the most Hamonic for 4,300. So do with that what you will.
Yeah, I think Edler would be the guy I go back to. Like he's the only reason I wasn't playing Edler earlier was because he was playing 18, 19 minutes a game. Now that he's regularly like 22 to 24 minutes, I have no problem playing him. That's probably going to be my only exposure. Like that, I'm going to bring up goalies. Thatcher Demko's got to be one of our favorites on the night, doesn't he?
One-offing and correlation play. If you're playing Vancouver, you got to hope for they get like at least 3 goals probably here. And then he's got the best chance by far to get the 35 save bonus. So
yeah, like is he going to end up chalk? Do you think?
We're showing him as pretty heavy chalk right now.
Yeah, we have him at 30%.
Caught on to that though enough. Like I don't think enough people probably use projections or like run simulations to where he's going to get to 30%. He might in higher stakes stuff, but I think in the MME tournaments, I think he'll be more like 15-ish.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just because I find a lot of people, I don't know, I don't want to say a lot of people don't. I find that people correlate goalies quite a bit, right? Like, yeah. And I don't think there'll be enough straight up Vancouver ownership to justify correlating with 30% Demko. So,
yeah. All right. A couple more games, but just want to mention that we do have free premium content for today. NHL top stacks are unlocked for today only. So go check those out. Nightbot will hit you up with the link in just a minute here. NBA projections also for free. We've got a bunch of NBA shows coming on after this. If you're playing NBA, in between all the March Madness and the drinking and the eating and what everyone does during March Madness, NBA projections are free. And then the UFC Top Fighter tool, again, is going to be free today. If you want to join our March Madness package, $29.99, that includes all college basketball games through the rest of the season. So you're going to be covered through the rest of the season. If you want to play showdowns or main slate or late slate, they've got a ton of different slates. Actually, some pretty good money to be made. So $29.99, you get access to premium Slack. And then I just want to mention as well, we've got live before locks that start at 11 a.m. Eastern. Then Matt, those guys will break down what you need to know to compete in these college basketball DFS tournaments. And I'm sure they're going to have some betting as well. I didn't catch the one from today, but I heard some very good reviews. I'll have to tune in tomorrow morning and check that one out, use the projections, and degen some lineups, try to donk a bank here. All right, let's go to St. Louis and San Jose. 3.2 implied total for the Blues, 2.8 for the Sharks. Binnington against Marty Jones. Jaden Schwartz expected to return for the Blues tonight, and he said he's playing with Shen and Tarasenko. So that's what I've got right now. The good thing is, depending on how you look at it, Schwartz is $2,500 on DK. Tarasenko is still probably underpriced, $5,400. Shen, $5,600. That line is way too cheap for the caliber of players that they are, for their history together. They've been really good playing together for a number of years, and the Blues are almost fully healthy. Still missing Parayko though. I guess do you believe in this St. Louis chalk here? You're going to the other side.
So it's kind of a tough situation because, like you said, I think they're going to be pretty chalky, that Jaden Schwartz line. We have them, I think, at 8% on the latest ownership run. I imagine that comes up a little bit. And they do have success together from 2018 through 2020, 2.7 expected goals for, 1.9 expected goals against, 58.5 expected goals share. Like, this has been a really good line together. Schwartz, we should note, has been out a long time. We don't know exactly how up to speed he is, but like, if this were in the middle of a normal season and all three guys were healthy and playing like they normally had, this is probably an 18K line plus on DraftKings, right? Like, these guys are way underpriced and should probably be owned. And what makes them appealing for me here tonight, especially, is going into San Jose. Like, not only is it Martin Jones night, but San Jose will probably run out Couture up against Ryan O'Reilly, and that'll leave Shen and Schwartz and Tarasenko up against the second and third lines from San Jose. And I think that's a good matchup for them. What fantasy players are going to have to decide is whether they want to play what I think is going to be a chalk Jaden Schwartz. He's almost like a free square. Like, he's a $6,000 player probably when he's healthy and going, or like 5,500 or something like that. He's left at less than half his normal price. Like, anybody with a projection machine, this line is going to be at the top of the list. So it's really hard for me. Like, I am using them, but I think this is a case where you either fade or you go heavy. Like, I don't think I would just come in on the field on Jaden Schwartz. Like, we talk about how and like I say that in hopes that Schwartz comes in like 20 to 30% or something like that. Because you and I talked a couple shows ago how if there's a cheap chalk and that cheap chalk goes off, you can just close your laptop, right? Like it's pretty much night over. So that's the decision that fantasy owners are going to have to make here tonight, and that's why I'm going to go heavy on him because. Like it for me, like I said, I wouldn't just come in on the field. It would just be coming in super light or none, or going very heavy. And I'm just going to decide to go very heavy because I think this is a good matchup against the San Jose second line. And like I talked about St. Louis's line numbers going back a couple of years, they've just been fantastic. And not only that, San Jose does take their fair share of penalties as well. I mean, St. Louis does too. So let's not get it twisted there. But San Jose is number 3 per time shorthanded this year. No better way for Jaden Schwartz to get acclimated back on the power play. So I'm in on St. Louis too. One thing I want to note too is that should something happen, like we're not expecting it, we're expecting Jaden Schwartz to play, he should be in the lineup. Should something late happen, just in case that he's not playing, San Jose 2 is virtually the same price. So, if there's something crazy that happens at the last second, some injury crops up where he can't play, San Jose 2 is probably my pivot away. But I do like San Jose 1. Like Jaden Schwartz coming back doesn't make the top line any better. And there's still no Colton Parayko, and that San Jose top line is still great. And St. Louis still takes penalties, and St. Louis still doesn't have a good penalty kill. So I'm going in on that San Jose top line. What kind of caught my eye, though, was their ownership. I thought their ownership would be a little bit lower than it is. We had them at 12% on our last run. That's not too bad for a 5-game slate, fully correlated top line. I just wish it was a little bit lower, but I'm fine with that. I'm going back in. So San Jose 1, St. Louis 2 for me.
I am right there with you on both accounts there. So St. Louis 2, mentioned cheap chalk, close the laptop. You can see how that happens very quickly here. And I like what you said about San Jose 2. Now, I don't think it's a great spot for them, but I think it's a spot where you can at least start off with a ton of St. Louis 2. And then based on how your lineups are doing, if some team is just going nuts in the first 3 games at lock right at 7 Eastern, if Toronto goes nuts, and you don't have like the stone cold nut 4-man or 5-man, whatever it is, then you could swap your St. Louis 2 to San Jose 2 for a little bit lower ownership. So I like at least starting off with a ton of St. Louis 2 and kind of going from there, potential late swap opportunities for sure, based on the difference in ownership between the 2 second lines. And then San Jose 1, just reasonable ownership on them. I misspoke. Top Stacks, I said it was free. It's not today. But since I messed up, I will give you guys San Jose 2's ownership share, 12.4% right now on DK.
San Jose 1.
Yes, San Jose 1. Wow. I'm getting San Jose, St. Louis mixed up. I'm getting 1 and 2 mixed up. San Jose 1, Kane, Couture, Kevin LeBanc, 12.4% ownership share, 16% top 2 stack percentage. So yes, they're a little bit high owned, but not over owned. So like to see that. Good 5-on-5 numbers against O'Reilly, Perron, and Sanford. Now that's a line that tries to slow things down, but being on home ice, I give the edge to the Sharks top line here. So I like them. I think you can 5-man power play stack the Sharks. I just don't like that Carlson's on the top power play and not Burns. So that makes it a little bit difficult. You could play Burns probably with San Jose 1, but he's not going to at least start with the power play time with them, which is a little bit frustrating. Goes a little bit better with San Jose 2. Did you talk about the third line? I was confirming about ownership.
Yeah, I do like that St. Louis third line. They're one of my favorite lines to put in with like super expensive Washington. Kyrou, Hoffman, and Tyler Bozak. Bozak was back last game. Hoffman and Kyrou are down there on the third line now. That's a great matchup against the San Jose third line. Shouldn't be much ownership on them. So I do like that St. Louis third line as a filler.
Yeah. So just to recap where I'm at, St. Louis 2, it's chalk, but it's good chalk. I think you can always swap to San Jose 2 if you're trying to make up some ground on the field with a little ownership pivot. San Jose 1, agree with the ownership. I think they're going to be, they're going to be in the mix for a top 5 stack for me for sure. If they come in third, I'll feel good about it. If they come in 6th, I'll feel fine about it as well. But I think they are, if not a priority, they're right on the edge of that. Krug, Falk, Dunn, any of those guys that you want to mention? Krug for me, I think still just a add-on with St. Louis 1 or St. Louis 2.
Yeah, Krug would go in my correlated stacks. Falk is playing a ton of minutes. So I have no problem with Falk as a one-off if you want to use him. I have him as a one-off here tonight.
All right. I think I agree with you there. Before we get to the last game of the night, if you guys could, I haven't asked for subscriptions for a while, but if you do like what we do and you want to help support us for no cost to you, and you'll get notified when we go live, hit the notification bell. You'll know when we've got March Madness streams, NHL streams, NBA. We got 3 hours coming up a little bit later on this exact channel. So while you got the games on, subscribe to the channel. You don't want to miss out during all the festivities. You got to make sure you tune into the deeper dive and the live before lock and the tip-off show, as well as the NHL strategy show. 3.1 implied total for the Knights, 2.5 for the Kings. Marc-Andre Fleury, question mark. Robin Leonard, I don't know if he's ready. I haven't seen an update since we started the show. Probably going to be Cal Peterson, some might call him. 6,700 for him. May see some decent volume here. You like him as a goalie, I believe. 2.5 implied total for the Kings. Dustin Brown back for the Kings, or at least expected to be. We got some question marks on Jeff Carter, though. You want to just take this game wherever you'd like?
Yeah, just like Jeff Carter had been playing on the second line for Los Angeles with Gabe Vilardi and Andreas Athanasiou. In practice yesterday, I was just made aware of this by the guy that does our lineup matching, Adam Daly. They had Carter basically skating with the third and fourth liners in practice yesterday. And they had the second line of Kempe, Vilardi, and Athanasiou. So Kempe, where he had been on the third line, and Carter on the second. It looks like Kempe is just going to stay on the second line with Dustin Brown back. It doesn't really change a lot for me because I wasn't in on Los Angeles 2 tonight anyway. So like that doesn't change much for me there. It doesn't really change much for me matchup wise with Vegas 2 either, because Vegas 2 is just a really good line. And whether it's Adrian Kempe or Jeff Carter, like it wouldn't get me away from Vegas 2 on a 5-game slate like Kempe or Carter. That's it's not going to make or break me. Honestly, I'm in on Los Angeles 1 here tonight. With Cody, like Chandler Stevenson might be playing tonight, but if he's not, Cody Glass is on that top line. We talked about how he's dragging down that line with Stone and Patch Ready. Like they're at 50% expected goal share with Cody Glass as their center. That is not good for that line. That is bad for that line. And I think people are going to be off of LA1 here tonight, given the matchup. So I really like Kopitar, Brown, Iafallo, Doughty here tonight, especially like I know that the Golden Knights have a good penalty kill, but the Kings are drawing, I think the third most power plays per game in the league. So, I really, Dustin Brown back. I don't think a lot of people are going to be on him. He's not even in our ownership right now. We have Anze Kopitar under 2% on a 5-game slate at home. Like, I don't care the matchup. Whenever Anze Kopitar is 2% at home on a 5-game slate, I'm playing him. So, like, regardless of the matchup, I was going to play Anze Kopitar tonight with Cody Glass on that top line. It just makes me like it even more. So, I'm in on VGK 2 as a filler, even though I know they're going to be popular. I think I can craft my lineups to get a little bit different. But for me, this game is mostly about Los Angeles 1 with a little bit of Doughty on the blue line.
Get your hat trick pick ready. I'm just going to quick talk about where I'm at for this one, and then we'll do our hat tricks and then hop on out of here so you guys can watch NBA. I'm really in on Vegas 2. In fact, I think I like them a little bit more than St. Louis 2, which is saying a lot. So I think those are two of my favorite lines, and the pricing is just kind of the cherry on top. They're probably going to pull some ownership off of each other. I'm not saying you have to play them together because you might not be able to fill out the salary if you do that, but if you want two really expensive defensemen, you could do that with Vegas 2 and St. Louis 2. Stevenson and Alex Tuch are both question marks. It's kind of up to you about what you want to do. If you want to start with Stevenson in and then swap down to Glass, the price difference is a little steep, and this is the last game on the night. There's not other games that lock here, so you're kind of hung out to dry if you do start with Stevenson and it ends up being Glass. And that's probably a downgrade to the line as much as I joke about Chandler Stevenson in the Slack chat. So if LA2 is actually going to be this low owned, even if they're going to be 5%, I think it makes for a play I want to be overweight on. I'm at 8% right now when they're at around 2. I feel pretty good about that. I'm not allocating a ton of my lineups to them, but I think they're better than a 2% play here or a 5% play.
Yeah, I agree. I'm making 20 lineups. I have them in 2 out of 20, but that's probably going to put me at least, 3x on the field. And I feel good about that.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Defenseman and then hat trick pick for you.
Defenseman, I'm actually playing a fair amount of Alec Martinez tonight. I think people are either going to play Theodore in their expensive lineups or dump down to Dylan Coughlin to save money. And I think that kind of puts Martinez in no man's land. And he's playing more minutes than Theodore is lately. So I like Alec Martinez. On Los Angeles, it's just Doughty correlating my LA lineups and then nothing. Hat trick pick for tonight. I can't believe I'm saying this. My Leaf fan friends are going to drill me for it, but I'm going to say John Tavares.
Nice. That'll be one of his first big games on the season, if that's the case. I'll be rooting for that one. I'll take Jonathan Marchessault in the same game, and I love the call on Alec Martinez. I'm all over him if he's going to be like that big of a difference in ownership between Theodore. So mostly because I'm going to a lot of Vegas too. He correlates with them on the power play, but I like both of those guys a ton as one-offs. Those are my 2 highest owned defensemen right now. So like Vegas, specifically the second line, if you want to play the first, I have no problem ever getting to Stone and Patch ready or power play stacking it. There's quite a few ways to go. Anything else before we head on out of here?
No, just good luck and enjoy the March Madness this weekend.
Yeah, enjoy all the festivities this weekend. Sub to the channel. Go check out JockMarket. Promo code Awesemo20 if you want $20 in your deposit bonus on your first deposit. It's free money. Might as well go check out JockMarket. Play some daily fantasy stocks, we'll call it. Good luck tonight, everybody. And Cliffy and Josh will break it down for you guys tomorrow.